Welcome, everyone, to my Sunday morning Facebook chat. And this morning, it's about butter and how many of us thought that butter was not good for us. New research. So I'm going to just jump right into that whole conversation. And if you're interested, hang in there, have a listen. And as always, listen to your own body. You can do muscle testing to see if it's right for you at that moment, for that morning or the evening, and whatever. So I encourage you to play with it. And it's Butter's comeback, what the science actually says. And we know that science is not a static uh, thing. Science is always improving on itself. What they thought 1 minute changes the next. And for us consumers, that's why it is so confusing. And so I'm putting this out today. Came across Sayer G's talk on his Green Med info site about butter. So I'm going to sort of give just a brief history of some of the misunderstandings for the last half century. I grew up with butter, and then, probably when I was about 10, because there was 9 people in the family, or soon to be, my mother switched to artificial fat. And that's what we grew up with. And now, hmm, let's see, 60 years later or more, um, that's changed for me. So I'm not here to convince anyone they should eat better, and I'm not here to stir up food wars. My intention is much simpler, to look calmly at what the science actually says, what it doesn't say, and how butter or ghee might fit or not fit into a modern whole food approach to your health. This is educational, it's not medical advice, and as always, your own body and lived experience matter. And I came across a story shared by Sayer G that struck me, not as proof, but as a metaphor. Mahatma Gandhi once believed even milk was unnecessary for human health. He followed a very strict plant based path, but during a period of serious illness, he eventually allowed goat's milk, believing it helped restore his strength. Whether or not you agree with his choices, the deeper lesson is important. Sometimes ideals meet physiology, and the body asks for nuance and that harmony that it knows how to create. We are, after all, this divine design. Every 50 plus trillion cells created by the creator of all that is and all the food on the planet for us to live in harmony and live a long, healthy life. This doesn't mean the dairy is right for everyone. It does remind us that nutrition is rarely one size fits all. And I know you found that once somebody says, "Oh, have this, it worked great," and you try it and going, "Well, it really didn't do anything," and that's where the muscle testing helps um, sort of even that off. And so that the rigid rules often soften with experience. For decades, butter was portrayed as dangerous. It's bad, mainly because saturated fat was blamed for heart disease. Well, they know new things now. Public advice encouraged people, the media, the food industry, encouraged people to replace butter with margarine and industrial vegetable oil. That guidance was given with good intention, but with limited understanding of food processing, fatty acid behavior, and the long term outcomes and how our body actually benefits from some things and not from others. I won't go deeply into the controversies of who paid who to create the no butter story today. What matters mostly is nutrition science has evolved, and many early assumptions have not held up as cleanly as we were once told. When researchers stepped back and looked at large population studies and meta analysis, butter showed something surprising. Not dramatic harm, not dramatic benefit, mostly neutrality. Butter intake has been associated with no significant increase in heart disease or overall mortality. A slight inverse association with type 2 diabetes in some analysis. In plain language, butter doesn't behave like the dietary villain many of us were taught to fear, but it's also not a miracle food. You may hear headlines saying butter or dairy fat reduces diabetes risk by up to 60%. Whoa, wouldn't that be fantastic? Well, let's translate that carefully. Researchers found that people with higher blood levels of a dairy fat marker called trans palmitoleic acid had significantly lower rates of developing type 2 diabetes over time. This is observational, not cause and effect. It doesn't mean eat butter and you won't get diabetes. It suggests that certain compounds found in dairy fat may be associated with better metabolic signaling in real world diets, which is interesting, promising, and still being studied. Butter isn't just saturated fat, it contains butyrate, a short chain fatty acid important for gut and immune health. Fat soluble vitamins like A and K2, especially in pasture raised butter, naturally occurring fatty acids that don't exist in refined plant oils. That doesn't mean butter is required. It does mean it behaves differently in the body than ultra processed fats. The divine design of butter is better understood and therefore processed more easily than man made chemicals, renditions in our body. And I also want to briefly mention ghee because for many people it's actually more practical than butter, especially for cooking. I started making my own, using it since 2021 when I took Andrea Haley Sankrant's Ayurvedic classes. Ghee is clarified butter, meaning the milk, solids, and the protein and the water are removed. What's left is a shelf stable fat with a higher smoke point, which makes it better suited for sauteing, cooking grains or legumes, and gently heating spices. One of the reasons ghee is interesting from a health perspective is that it contains the butyrate, a short term fatty acid that supports the cells lining the gut, helping calm inflammation and plays a role in the gut brain connection. Your body can make butyrate from fiber, but traditional fats like ghee provide small amounts directly. Used in modest amounts and paired with whole foods, ghee isn't about excess, it's about function. That's likely why it's been valued across cultures as a nourishing, grounding cooking fat rather than something to fear. They've done it for thousands of years. If butter or ghee works for you, here's the grounded, non extreme approach support. Use small amounts, teaspoons, not slabs. Pair with whole foods, vegetables, soups, legumes, and eggs if you eat them. Choose quality over quantity. When possible, get organic, grass fed butter. Pay attention to your body, your digestion, your skin, your energy, your clarity. And just as importantly, if dairy doesn't work for you, then I guess you don't need it. Olive oil, nuts, seeds, and other whole food fats can support health beautifully too, in the right amounts. Too much overburdens the Kupffer cells in your liver, leads to fat imbalances that affects not only proper liver function, but also your pancreas's ability to balance the insulin that is sent out to your body. If there's a real driver of modern metabolic issues, it isn't butter. It's ultra processed food, constant blood sugar spikes, and eating patterns that never truly satisfy you. Read your food labels and put food back on the shelf with seed oils or palm oils and too many additives you don't recognize as natural, as a natural origin. And natural flavorings are not that, they're chemically derived. Sometimes asking Adding back a little traditional fat helps people feel grounded and nourished. And sometimes, it doesn't. Both are valid. Ancient cultures in India respected it, used it carefully, and paired it with whole foods. So I'll leave you with this: butter and ghee aren't miracles, and they aren't enemies either. So where do you land right now? Curious? Cautious? Already using them? Or dairy free by choice? I was dairy free, but now I add that back into it because it has that satisfying um, ability, the satiety that they talk about. So let me know in the comments um, about your information and knowledge. And is it based on the new modern science or some of the old stuff that we were taught and feared? Uh, I've got lots of information on muscle testing, using your body, all sorts of information on all sorts of different foods. My Friday food jams on my app, Authentic Sacred Design. Most of it is free at the moment. I'm adding a new graphic novel called To Do with the Liver, which is just fun. It's short pictures and all sorts of new things. So become a member. $1 of the $8 a month membership goes towards Too Young to Wed, which is the nonprofit that I support to keep girls in other countries educated and out of marriage at a very young age. So I welcome all your thoughts and well wishes and just a beautiful, happy new year. May it be filled with love, peace, abundance in all things, and wealth in all ways. Thank you. Blessings to all of you. Until we meet again. Thank you so much. Bye for now.